What were some of the worst experiences you have had while working in the fast food industry? I was 16, working frontline, cashier. A man walked up, and instead of ordering, he started talking about how his daughter was in vet school. I smile, nod, say something like, "That sounds nice." He then responds with, "Yes. She did something with her life, unlike you." Edit. To those questioning the authenticity of this, just read through the comments. They're rife with people who have experienced similar shittiness. Not fast food, but while I was working at a chain grocery store, a middle-aged woman was pushing her cart through the parking lot when she lost control of it going downhill, and it slammed into someone's car whilst they were in it. She attempted to blame me, who had been a few feet away from her, for pushing her cart full of groceries into the car when the person went to confront her. Luckily the person saw through her blaming it on me, and proceeded to ask her again if the cart full of groceries were hers. When she repeated it wasn't, he shrugged and said, "Guess it's no one's," then proceeding to load all of the groceries from her cart, and putting it in his car, before leaving, all while she had to stand there and say nothing. If that car owner was an idiot, it could have turned real different for me. I don't know if any of you remember the grilled onion cheddar burger that McDonald's used to serve, but we used to keep the grilled onions in a heated tray in the grill area. One of the guys I used to work with at McDonald's came in one day all pissy. He used to chew tobacco while working, which was gross enough as it is. Well, he got caught on camera spitting his chew into the grilled onion tray. I think he got away with doing that almost his whole shift, until someone saw the tape in the manager's office. He was fired on the spot. I'm not sure what they did about the burgers that went out served like that. I went to hand a drink out the drive-thru window, and the asshat in the car threw a large blue Powerade all over me. My manager said if I went home early due to being soaked, I was fired. I woulda hugged the manager, and said, "Don't go home now, K?" and walked out. It was definitely the last straw to find a new job. I put in my 2 weeks notice the next shift. Man, I hope you really liked all your co-workers to put in that 2 weeks. I wouldn't have, just to spite the manager. Not OP, but I've had a similar situation where my manager was a genuine duckface. Long story short, I was constantly being given the short end of the stick every time I worked with her, despite me being the only reliable employee she had over 3 years of employment. Over that time, I had seen a good 20 plus people quit or get fired because of my manager's bitchy attitude. Never once did someone hand in a 2-week notice. I wouldn't have put up with the job for as long as I did, if it wasn't for the fact I was only part-time due to college. One day, she called me into the back office with a store manager and accused me of not doing my job properly, and patronized me saying, "We can't just stand around and babysit you kids all day." That was the last straw for me. I put in my application elsewhere and handed in my 2 weeks notice my next shift. She took one look at it, threw it on the counter beside her and said, thanks a lot, and proceeded to give me the cold shoulder the rest of the day. I then heard from other co-workers that she was going around the store, telling others, "There's no way he has another job, who's going to hire him for part-time work?" I decided to retract my 2-week notice then, and no call, no showed every remaining shift I was scheduled. It was the most satisfying moment of that job. I had a very short stint working at the Golden Arches. The soda machine was literally never cleaned. On my first closing shift I went to take the nozzles off the soda machine, and there was mold literally caked around the inside of each nozzle. The manager told me that the constant stream of soda kept the machine clean, so it wasn't necessary to remove the nozzles. Bullshit. I can't drink soda from McDonald's or any other fast food place anymore. I saw a dude clean a bathroom floor covered in logs of shit on his first job, for 2 months worth of free Taco Bell anytime he wanted. Still unsure if he won this deal. Someone had totally destroyed the bathrooms with vomit where I worked, as a manager, and I'm not one of those people who see it as, I'll make someone below me do it, but I'm also extremely vomit phobic. I paid one of the guys who worked there who wasn't fazed by vomit, with like over £200 worth of vouchers to do it. And my boss just laughed and said, "Yeah, fair enough." I managed a breakfast joint for a while, beginning a few months after it originally opened. We have a very large oven where we bake our bagels, and one day, after the bagels had been baked for the day, the baker left the door open to cool. While I was up front, the restaurant and I could hear a deafening "holy shit" from the back where the oven was. I walked back laughing, expecting to see a proofing rack knocked over, or some other stupid mistake. Instead, I'm hit with a geyser of jet black water from the sprinkler system above the oven. Well, shouting resumed as we tried to cover what we could, while waiting for the fire department to arrive. Fire department arrived, and spent the next 2.5 hours looking for the shut-off switch for our sprinkler. Turns out the switch had been inadvertently covered/obstructed during our store's construction. I got to stay late that day and help clean every ounce of black, smelly water from our appliances and slicers. 3 hours of pressurized water in the kitchen. We had a notice board that customers could pin their adverts on. One week we took everyone's stuff off so that we could use it as a memorial for our coworker who had just recently passed away. One customer came in and started going ballistic at us that we took her advert down. She didn't care that it was a memorial. My coworker ended up crying out the back for the rest of her shift. Worked at Burger King a while back, that stayed open till 2 AM. One manager was actually a reasonable person, and was an older lady that clearly paid her dues to the company. At my store we only had 2 closers, so from about 10 o'clock to 3 AM it was just me and a manager. The night I put my 2 weeks in, she is just grumpy and teary-eyed looking at her phone, and she's not usually the manager who does that. Her oldest was going into a complicated premature labor, and nobody could help her. No area manager wanted to come out that late. Corporate didn't care because that was part of the job. She was crying all night until we closed. Busted out of there 10 minutes after closing time. We broke so many rules. Duck corporate people who think you have to take your time away from your children for shitty burgers. Does Starbucks count? A woman demanded room, space for sugar, cream, in her latte, then burst back in line demanding more room, then berated me for throwing out the ones she returned for damaging the environment, because I didn't resell them, apparently. Then demanded less room. Our manager ended up telling her she just had to leave, because the line became enormous. I worked at McDonald's part-time while I was in college. One day, I was working the drive-thru, and this guy ordered a lot of drinks. One of them was low on soda syrup, but instead of just telling me about it like a rational person, so I could give him a replacement drink, he threw the extra large drink at me. Of course the lid came off and I was soaking wet. The manager, who was actually pretty good as far as fast food managers go, saw this happen. He took off running into the parking lot, flagged down the driver before he could leave, and told him to never come back. Then he came back in, found me a dry uniform shirt, and let me have a few minutes on the clock to sit in the break room and calm down. Money was going missing, and as the newest employee I was suspect number 1. My boss was a great guy, and my co-workers were very loyal to him, so I started getting death threats. Eventually it was confirmed to be a different worker, and everyone apologized. Still sucked though. Death threats? That doesn't sound like a good place to work. Seriously, who sends death threats for stealing from the business? Even if it was him, why would any of the other employees care that much? Plot twist, OP worked for the mafia. I was working the drive-thru and gave the lady her food. Not 15 feet down the road from the window is a trash can and a sign that says, "Please do not litter." You can probably guess what happened next. She throws her wrapper right in front of me, and as she drives off I say, "Are you kidding me?" Next thing I know, I hear a screech of tires and hear a car door slam. She walks back to the window and starts to curse me out saying, "What the duck did you say? You throw your shit on the ground too. Don't bullshit me." I just point to the sign and say, "No, I throw my trash in the trash can like a normal human being. Have a nice ducking day," and shut and lock the window. Luckily my manager was pretty chill and didn't care, and I just went about the rest of my day. I used to work in a bakery in a grocery store. I was the cake decorator, and the cakes were in containers and in a cooler that customers could just take and go to pay. While Two kids, 6 and 8 years oldish, ran over and started throwing the cakes on the ground. Like happy birthday to the ground style. They were on their 6th cake before I could reach them and took the cakes in their hands. Their mom came over, sight, and just turned the kids around and started to the produce section, like nothing happens. No apology, no acknowledgement, no words to the kids about the $100 they just cost us and my time. Worked at Browns for a bit. Went to hand an elderly lady her ice cream cone. She took it from me, pulled her arm into her car, took a lick, and then dropped the ice cream down her door. I genuinely felt bad for her, and offered to give her another one, and clean it up if she would pull around. It's 100+ degrees out, and I'm in full uniform. I begin wiping the side of her door when she throws a plethora of insults my way. This is why your generation is so messed up. You saw I had braces on my wrist. You knew I had arthritis. You should never have handed me that cone. You should ask if I want a cup instead. You'll probably only ever be a fast food worker. It's people like you that make everyone's life hard. She said a few more things. The heat and moment got the best of me. I threw the dirty napkins in her lap, told her to shut the duck up, reminded her I was doing her a favor, and it wasn't my fault, advised her to order correctly, and told her to clean up her own goddamn mess. I walked back inside, explained to my manager what I did, and in comes this lady playing "I'm a good, sweet Christian and would never disrespect someone" card. Manager told her to call corporate, but as he wasn't outside, he couldn't believe what she had to say. Was 15 and working for the Golden Arches in a big 2-story city location. An elderly lady came in to use the upstairs toilet, and when she came back down, she had poop caked all over her hands, which she dragged down the banister she used to steady herself on down the stairs. She then went and sat at a table for a moment before leaving. She clearly had dementia, although I didn't recognize that at the time. I was sent to the bathroom to investigate the damage, and it was a literal shit show. I reported back to my manager, who told me I had to clean it all up. No thanks. I quit on the spot. I was not cleaning up shit for $4.85 an hour. Not fast food, but at a restaurant. I was the waiter for a nice, older couple, and they ordered salads as an appetizer before their meal. After a couple minutes, the man calls me over and shows me the tip of a broken drill bit he bit into from his salad. Expecting a lawsuit, my heart skipped a beat and went into adrenaline mode as I quickly got the manager. Tom came over white-faced and apologized profusely while offering a few gift cards and comping their meal. Shockingly, the couple didn't threaten or get irate. Found out later that Tom had been drilling near the prep line in the kitchen earlier in the day to fix something, and saw the drill bit snap but couldn't find the tip. The couple even tipped me well. You dodged a bullet, Tom. Someone said, "Give me some of those fresh baked cookies, I can smell you baking them." When? First of all, we just reheat frozen ones, and secondly, we just put one in the microwave for a guest who asked us to. When we told him this, he started to yell, then walked behind the counter to go check. I called my manager, and he started to push her around to go check, screaming, "I want my fresh cookies." He then tried to hit on one of our team members in the back, then took off his shirt and screamed when she asked him to go away. We had to escort him out after calling the police. I had a rough-looking guy in a beat-up truck try to use 1-year-old coupons. I refused to take them. That was a mistake. He held up the drive-thru and screamed at me, including, "Smarten up, son, or you're going nowhere in life." Made me feel like shit, until I realized that someone like that who is screaming those things at a 15-year running the drive-thru did not go anywhere in life. Reminds me of some lady earlier tonight at work on the phone, who had a special order and demanded she get the sale price when she gets them. She was going on about how she knew how companies work, because she used to be CEO. Must have been a real fall from grace to go from CEO to demanding sale price on some damn waffles.